Okay, hello, Darren. So this is a summary of questions 1 to 8 for 2018 paper 2. Okay, I'll go through the key ideas which are important throughout each question, right? So how to read a micrometer screw gauge, that will be in your chapter 1, right? What did we learn from this question? We learned that Cambridge are nice to us, right? Generally, they name things in a diagram for us to use to answer in the qualitative questions, right? So these wordings are actually from the diagram itself. Okay, helps me answer the question better, right? And here we have an example of a question that comes from your chapter on mass, weight, and density. So this is a question on chapter 1 and chapter 4 together, right? This is a question clearly on forces, right? Which should be chapter 3 of your textbook. All right, we learned here that free body diagram drawing is very important whether you are applying F net equal ma or you are trying to describe why acceleration is not constant, right? So actually, again, this is like extension of the F net equal ma question, right? So tendency is that there's some relationship between the parts within the question itself. All right, again, sketching graph, okay, you have to know displacement time graph as well as velocity time graph, how to sketch them, right? This is a rarer example of displacement time graph. Okay, it rarely comes out, but you should know how to draw this graph. Right, it is an easy mark to score. All right, yeah, last part's not too difficult. Okay, and now we have a energy question. This part's easy. Right, again, forces that come in to mix with energy. Right, you need to be able to understand that the free body diagram of the boy has friction acting on it, and this does work done. Okay. Internal energy is from thermal, right? So you can see again that the questions actually mix the chapters, right? So again, this is what we call synoptic questions. So you need to have a good comprehension of what your ideas are in each chapter, right? Again, Brownian motion and pressure, right? Again, mixing of questions. Hopefully you see the pattern already. Right, so this is again an example of using the diagram well, right? I keep stressing that if you realize, right? You may draw on the diagram should be interpreted as you should draw on the diagram. Otherwise, describing here will be very cumbersome in terms of words, right? Normally, the number of lines, right, is supposed to be roughly the amount you should be writing. If you're writing a lot and excessively, you might want to think about how to answer the question in a more succinct manner, right? Like drawing on a diagram and saying, oh, please refer to my diagram, right? Know that Cambridge examiners have to refer to the diagram to take into consideration what you draw in the diagram, right? Together with your answer here, right? To give you the mark. As long as your diagram is not too untidy, of course. Right, again, you can see that this is an example of synoptic question. This is electrostatics. This is magnetism, right? And this one is actually under DC or current. Okay, so a lot of things together. Right, I won't talk too much about this question. I think it's straightforward. Yeah, so this type of questions like D part 2 are example of a little bit harder questions, but I believe it's still within your capability to do. Right, question 7, as I said, I skip first because you haven't covered this. And finally, question 8, I don't think there's too much for me to add on here, except to say that again, these are synoptic questions. All right, the final piece of advice I want to say is that before we look at this type, once we look at this type of questions, we realize that actually knowing each chapter well on its own matters. All right, and that's why we gave you a set of worksheets called the booster worksheets. All right, the booster worksheets are technically the most succinct way I can help you revise everything within your syllabus. All right, it's as condensed as it can be. All right, and that's what we do in physics, in the physics unit here. You'll realize later on that post prelim our revision are also very condensed. That means we don't take up a lot of your time. Right, so I'm telling you right now that before the prelim or your IP4 exam, all right, please finish the booster worksheets. And if you just read, if you just go and do the booster worksheets, you have to do properly before you check the answers. So study, do the booster worksheets, then check your answers. That's how you optimize your learning. All right, don't go and try to accelerate the learning by looking at the answers and the questions only. Okay, that will do you no good. I promise you that that defeats the purpose of doing the booster worksheet. All right, you have to try yourself, do your revision, try yourself, before you go ahead and check the answers. Okay, during the Tier 3 revision, we'll be going through waves, light, and electricity and magnetism booster worksheets. Alright, the rest of the booster worksheets for thermal and mechanics, you have to do yourself at home because there's no time for us to cover all of them. Alright, so with that, I'll end this sharing. Alright, and this marks the end of the first lecture for Tier 1 and Tier 2 students.